Good evening, folks. I make it 6 o'clock. The time that we would start the session. Welcome to Entrepreneurship 3A ENTP 7311W. This is Entrepreneurship on the bottom course, the distance course. My name is Karel Marais. I will be taking this course for the semester. On the screen, you will see my email address, kamarais@varsitycollege.co.za. I am a full-time employee at Varsity College in Cape Town. I have posted under more resources a short information piece about myself for you to be able to have a sense of who and what I am. In that piece, I also mention, in fairness to other students, even if you're in Cape Town, I cannot meet with you physically, but I'm more than happy to chat to you over email, or if needs be, set up a online meeting with you. I give you my email address because I enjoy students contacting me. Feel free to contact me. If you've got questions, send me an email. Tell me, Karel, I don't understand this. I'm not sure about that. And I'm more than happy to explain those nuances to you in a short email. I sometimes say to students, I think the question you're asking is pertinent to a wider audience, and I might make a short recording and drop that online. But please feel free to contact me at any point in time. If I do not respond within 24 hours in the week, please send me a second email. And you are welcome to be rather rude in the second email and say to me, Karel, I'm waiting your answer. Please also, in the subject matter of the email, make it clear that it's a student inquiry, ENTP 7311. It just makes it easier. It's not unusual for me to be away for a day or so and to get back to have 100, 150 emails waiting for me. So yes. Please feel free to use that email to get hold of me and to assist me in assisting you to sort out your queries. Right, let's get into an overview of the subject, the material that is required. The prescribed book is Neck, and Murray, a 2021 edition of an American book. The prescribed version is the International Student Edition. It's published by Sage in London. I like the book. There are parts that I don't like. I prefer the fully South African versions, but it gives us a very, very nice international view. And I think with entrepreneurship and where we're at and looking at entrepreneurship in the global market, I don't think it's a bad idea to have a more international book. You'll see the second part of the prescribed material is the Supplement B, the pitch desk. Supplement B is included in the textbook, so don't go looking, as I did, for a second thinner book or a proper supplement. It is included in the book, and we will discuss Supplement B when we talk about the assignment. Then there are 4 learning units that have prescribed articles or academic articles as the prescribed material. I will seriously encourage you to look at those articles and read those articles. They are very appropriate for those sections, but I would encourage you seriously to look for further articles around those to further be able to expand your readings and be able for you to have a deeper understanding of what's happening in those sections. I will download those in due course and also put them in VC Learn under the More Resources section. So what is it that we're trying to achieve with this module? Well, what we're trying to achieve is to give you an in-depth knowledge of how entrepreneurship works on the implementation side, what corporate entrepreneurial strategies there are, and what is it that you need to do to create a sustainable and competitive entrepreneurial venture. There are 3 module outcomes. They're on the screen. I don't need to read them to you. But this is the overall view of what the outcomes for the module needs to be. The assessment for the module is interesting. We have the 2 assignments and a sit-down exam. I'm not familiar with the how the part-time guys have, or the distance students at least, sorry, have been assessed in the past. I know most of the full-time guys have not written closed book exams. It is something that concerns me, but yes, it is what it is. So we have the 2 assignments. You'll see I crossed out the assignment 2's duration because it says 1 hour. That's obviously a printing error. They talk about 10 hours. So it's assignment, closed book exam, 25, 30, and 35%. And obviously, when you add that up, it'll add up to 90. And then you have the ICE component making up the balance of it. I have not yet determined the ICE for the module. I will determine the ICE. I will upload the ICE, and I will let you know when the ICE is available. The first assignment, I would be very surprised if anybody could finish it as quickly as 10 hours. It is a long assignment. There's a lot of work to do. To give you a sense what you need to do, you need to create a video clip of you pitching an app. You need to create an app. Well, the idea of an app, you do not need to make the app. Please let us be clear on that. You don't need to make the app, but you need to pitch the app in a video clip. And then that is 30%, if I believe I'm correct. Then the other 60% are written essay type questions. And then there's 10% for the overall outlay of the essays and so on. It is a long assignment. And in due course, I will update the pacer. If you've been looking at my emails, you would see that there's a pacer that I've uploaded to under more resources. It's not completed because I was waiting for the following dates. And I will now be able to complete the pacer, including when we will look at the assignment, our national prep sessions for the assignment. So if you look at these dates, 3rd of May, we're halfway through March at the moment. So we've got about 6 weeks before the assignment is due. I will encourage you, you should be finished if you're following the pacer this week already with the first part of the Learning Unit 1. And I will encourage you to start as soon as possible after that with the assignment. Right. At this point in time, I was going to ask questions. I see nobody has joined the session. I'm not sure if there's a problem or not. I will continue in the recording and I will upload the recording. If there was a problem, I will try to schedule another session where we can just have a Q&A after you have listened to this recording. Okay, right. So, chapter 1, practicing entrepreneurship. Now, I also teach this in the face-to-face mode, this subject. And when I put the practicing entrepreneurship up on the board as the first chapter, there was a communal sigh and a groan in the class. And guys said to me, "Sir, really, 3rd year practicing entrepreneurship." And I said to them, "Hold your horses. This is a game changer." The approach that they follow in this textbook in entrepreneurship is different to what you've been used to. And bear with me. It's important that you work through this. I'm hoping that you have had the opportunity to watch the video clip. The link to the video clip I sent out in an email the other day. I also included it in the pacer. If you have not watched that video at this point in time, please, please, please stop the recording right now and go watch that video clip. And before you return to the recording, you will, if you decided not to do that, that's fine. I'm going to prompt you a little bit later on again and say to you, maybe go check that video now. Okay, learning outcomes on the screen at the moment. You guys know what those mean. You know that is the questions you need to be able to answer for the assessments, specifically in this case for the written exam, the sit-down written exam. I will at some stage also talk to those when we're looking at prepping for the exam. I want to do quite a bit of speaking to you about prepping for the exam to make sure that we know what we're talking about. Right. So the next slide, and I see my slide is slightly moved. So entrepreneurship methods, what are the methods that entrepreneurship uses? Well, there's 4 things. You need to think, you need to act, you need to identify opportunities, and you need to approach problems. Not necessarily in those order. But yeah, those are the 4 things that an entrepreneur needs to be able to do. And those are the 4 methods that an entrepreneur deploys. And if an entrepreneur employs those 4 methods, they will develop a full set of skills to be able to address any entrepreneurial problem that they may come. And these 4 methods, if you want to, you may call them themes, is something that you will see emerging throughout the course in the semester. This textbook and this module takes a slightly different approach. I think initially, the couple of things I'm going to go through now are not that much different to what you're used to, but let's have a look at them in any case. So entrepreneurship is not necessarily what you think it is. It's different. Entrepreneurship is not something that's only done in startups. Large companies also may have an entrepreneurial trait in them, may follow an entrepreneurial path. It's true that startups do have a strong entrepreneurial approach, but it's not limited to them. Even firms that have started and got to a point and they 2-3 years old might find that they suddenly have a new entrepreneurial opportunity, and that entrepreneurship approach then steps forward and dominates all other approaches. So it's not just in startups where entrepreneurship is important. It's important in any company at any point of the life cycle of that company. Personality traits are not something that entrepreneurs need to possess, a specific set of traits. Traits are inherent, inborn things. Entrepreneurship can be taught, as you see, truth number 4. So you don't have to be a very specific personality type that we can do a personality test on you and say, okay, tick box next to your name, well done, you are an entrepreneur. Sorry, next person, black mark, you cannot be an entrepreneur. There used to be thinking like that, but this has since been debunked. It's very simple. Entrepreneurship is a method. A method is a way of doing things, a way of approaching something, and as such, methods can be taught. So entrepreneurship is a fully teachable skill. You have already come through several years of teaching of entrepreneurship, and you are well on your way to develop that skill. So, entrepreneurs are not extreme risk takers. This is something that you've hopefully been told since first year, the first time that you were exposed to entrepreneurship. The question that I always get asked, but sir, they take risks. Yes, they definitely take risks. But they do not take risks that are extreme. They do not take, another way that we always put it is we say they do not take uncalculated risks. It's a very calculated risk. It's a risk-reward system. Is the reward that I can get for the risk I'm taking big enough? Is it worth my while? If not, I'm not going to take the risk. It's much easier for me rather to go to the casino and gamble than make all the effort and everything to start a venture if it's a gamble. Just go to the casino, put it all on red, and get it over and done with. So yes, they do take risks, but there's not extreme or uncalculated risk. People think entrepreneurs compete, and the biggest thing that entrepreneurs want to do is beat the competitors, knock down that guy down the road who's doing a similar business or similar idea to you. Not true. Entrepreneurs are people that collaborate. There are organizations created specifically for entrepreneurs to collaborate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at some of the business chambers, or go look at an organization called BNI, Business Network International. It's a networking organization, typically for small businesses. There are large businesses involved as well. When I ran my own business, I used to be a member of BNI in Cape Town, and I generated a hell of a lot of business by collaborating with people. Sometimes you collaborate with somebody that's in exactly the same field as you. They've got some kind of a technology that you don't have. You've got some kind of skill, let's say a marketing skill, that you're able to employ to sell that technology, and the two of you then collaborate and work together. In other cases, you might collaborate with people that are in a very similar business. For example, I had a paint manufacturing company, so I collaborated with a lot of handyman, interior decorators, painters, these type of people. So there is no or very, very little gain for an entrepreneur in competing with other entrepreneurs. There's everything to gain from collaboration. Therefore, entrepreneurs tend to collaborate. Entrepreneurs act more than they plan. It's a truth. We talk about planning and do a strategic plan, write a business plan. That forms your strategic plan. From that, work out your medium and short-term goals, then work plans for that. Entrepreneurs do. They're Nikes. They just do it. They don't hang around reading plans all day and looking at plans. It's unfortunately true that even the business plan, the much vaunted business plan that we've always told you, that's the first step, and you must write it yourself, and you shouldn't get a consultant, and make sure that the business plan is 100% accurate, and that's going to be a vehicle for you to get financing and so on. In the real world, it doesn't really work like that. Many entrepreneurs simply do, on a day-to-day basis, plan on the fly. They don't sit down and think about it for months and months at a time. And entrepreneur is a life skill. It's a life skill that you can learn, that you can master, and be able to become a well-skilled person who understands the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, that is able to use that knowledge of entrepreneurship to develop a business or businesses. In this curriculum, we define several types of businesses. It's about several types of entrepreneurship. It's about 7 of them. Starting off with corporate entrepreneurship. Corporate entrepreneurship is where a large company actively pursues an entrepreneurial section or entrepreneurial part of the business, where they're looking for new business. If you have been following what's recently happened to the Silicon Valley Bank, a lot of the startups that was banking with Silicon Bank were actually spin-outs from large corporates that they started these smaller startups to try to run with a new product, something like that. So in corporate entrepreneurship, and this is important to understand, the corporation itself has an active policy of pursuing entrepreneurial ventures to try to get small companies going, hoping that those companies are going to grow and become large affiliates to the mother company, to try to form a big conglomerate. With entrepreneurship inside, it is people within larger organizations that have an entrepreneurial streak, and they try to then live out this entrepreneurial streak, and they then try to get the company to buy into it. So it's not the company that's driving it, it is the individual. Whilst with corporate entrepreneurship, it is the corporate that is actually driving the entrepreneurship, and staff are therefore trying to be entrepreneurial. Franchising. Depending on your lecturer from first year, second year, etc., and even in your business management module in the first year, you may have been told that franchising is not entrepreneurial. The franchisee is a business person. They're not an entrepreneur. The franchisor is entrepreneurial. But at this level, we're looking at franchising and we're saying a franchise establishes a new business in a new area, and by definition, thus they are then entrepreneurial. Some entrepreneurs may decide not to start from scratch. They would rather look at a small business that is already established, has an established market, has a good product, and then take over that business, buy that business, and run with that business. And it's interesting when you see that happen, because in many cases, you see the difference between somebody who just has a business and they're just making the business tick over, and a new person coming in with a true entrepreneurial spirit, and suddenly this business is booming. Suddenly the customers are streaming through the doors. Suddenly it's actually a really viable business. And there are entrepreneurs that actually specialize in that, where they look at smaller businesses that are not doing as well as they believe they should be doing, and they go in, take the business over, build the business up. Sometimes they just sell it on, sometimes stick around. That is especially true in the restaurant industry, for example, where there are people, sometimes they are chefs, sometimes they're just hospitality entrepreneurs, where they look at restaurants that are not doing or not fulfilling their full potential, and they go in there, take it over, and it's not even necessary to do a full revamp, close the place for 4 weeks. They take the place on as a growing concern, improve the food, improve the marketing, get a couple of new key staff members in there, maybe more better wine on the wine list, etc. And suddenly the business is booming, the restaurant is booming. And as I say, they may then just simply sell it on, or they may keep it for a longer period of time, or then use that concept, buy a second struggling restaurant and rebrand it to fit the same the ideas of the first restaurant, and then almost go into a chain, and then maybe later look at franchising that. Family enterprising or family entrepreneurship is where a family pursues an entrepreneurial venture. The family is involved in that entrepreneurial venture. In many cases, you have more than one generation, or even, never mind more than one, several generations involved in it. You may have several different stores with different family members running those individual stores, and still running it as a family business, although there's many branches. I'm not sure if it still is, but the Bright's Hardware Group, I think Bright's is better known in the Western Cape than elsewhere in the country. But Bright's, if you know what Bright's Hardware Group is, that is one of those family enterprises. And then there's serial entrepreneurs. I hinted at that when I spoke about buying a small business, is where people do a startup, they get it, they build it to a point where it is something that looks good, something that will sell, and they sell it, and they move on, and they may start a similar business or something completely different. They might just sit back and wait for a new opportunity and then seize that opportunity. But you may have a person who does, I know a person who is now running his third microbrewery. He finds a nice little town, starts a little brewery in that town, gets the brewery up and running, runs it for a couple of years until it's an established entity in the town, sells it, moves on to another town, and does a similar thing. And what those guys are doing is they taking the capital off the top of the business, the big profit they're taking for building that business. So their business model, if you want, is something that says, I'd rather sell and get the large amount once off than stay in the business and making that bit of profit every year. So now I've sketched the types of entrepreneurship. I've given you a bit of background, but let us have a look at what the entrepreneurial process looks like. Now, this is a photo taken straight from your textbook, the entrepreneurial process, and this is what you've been taught in various models, the 10-step model. So first you have an idea, and you think, what can I do? How can I make some money? You go to the market, do your market research, go speak to some friends, family, stop people on the street, read up and think, can this work? If you think it can work, you start doing some financial planning, look at how much capital you need, look at how long before we're going to become profitable, because some entrepreneurial ventures can take several years, which means you need to have deep pockets, or you need to find partners that are happy to work with you in pursuing this goal. Then you write your business plan. You sit around a table with those partners. In many cases, those partners are specialists in a particular field. And then you write this business and they give you all the technical dope. And then you start peddling your business plan. You're going around to investors, angel investors, banks, whoever wants to listen to you, family members, if you're lucky, get them together. And once we've got that financing, now we're ready to roll. We find a space where we're going to launch our wonderful shop, or we build a prototype of the product that we're planning to sell. That obviously, during that process, we start bringing more staff on board because we're ready to roll. Now we go into the market, and now we start marketing the hell out of that product. We're now in the selling phase. We're trying to get that business to go up through the various stages of growth and of market acceptance. Our role now becomes one of managing the business, and we manage the business until we plan our exit. So it's a lovely step-by-step, follow the 10-step process, and you'll be a successful entrepreneur. And then we take this and we throw it out, and we say, entrepreneurship is a method, not a process. It's not something that logically step one follows, or step one is followed by step two, is followed by step three. And there's a logical progression, and we almost approach it like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Before the first step is not fulfilled, you can't move on to the second step. You might as well have a Gantt chart running. So the principle is that a method is a systematic way of approaching a task, not a process way, not a step-by-step. There's a system, and we work a system that says we start with an entrepreneurial venture, we use entrepreneurship as a basis, and we work towards a success. The process is seen as an outdated view. It talks about planning and prediction. It says we plan, we predict, and then we make that prediction true. That 10-step process is a process that can take extremely long and is unlikely to be effective in the long run. It is the spanners that will end up in your works are innumerable, and you will not simply be able to do the next step because you will be so busy taking spanners out of the works that there's nothing linear in this. And Nick and Murray, the authors of your prescribed material, say that this is one of the reasons why so many startups fail after the first 5 years. Why businesses are not successful, because they're trying to follow these steps and the next step just doesn't come. And they're so busy trying to complete this step and get to the next step that the business opportunity actually slides away from them. So if we're going to approach it as a method, there's a couple of things that we need to realize. We need to realize that novices, experts, it doesn't matter who you are, it's an all-inclusive process. So if you're going to follow the method and take your approach as a methodological approach, you shouldn't say, oh, well, I know what I'm doing, so this doesn't work for me. Or you shouldn't say, well, I'm just starting out now. Maybe I should follow this process until I can move on to the method. You start using the method from day one. But requires continuous practice. And practice here, you must not consider as practice as in for a sport, where we practice and we practice and practice, and then it becomes match day. And on match day, we need to perform. Practice you should see here as doing and continuously doing things. Obviously, you need to change the way you think, but changing the way we think is not very difficult, because if we look at our environment and how unpredictable our environment has become. So, and yeah, the last thing I want to talk about is something like COVID. COVID is a once in a lifetime happening. I sort of silently chuckle at myself when I hear about corporates putting COVID plans in place for future similar events. When the future event happens like COVID, none of those plans will work because your whole environment will be completely different. I'm talking about the normal unpredictability of environments. I'm talking about the example I used earlier. Things that happen that we think won't happen, such as the collapse of these banks in America. And if you've got any idea of the previous financial crisis, the 2009 financial crisis, and you go read about it, you will see this is very, very similar to what happened there. And it happened unpredictably. It happened within 2-3 days, and people had to shuffle around and people had to think what to do. So, unfortunately, if you were waiting for step 6 to realize in your process, you would be long after the fact still waiting for step number next to happen in your process. So let's get away from that. And I want to show you something quickly, the method versus the process. This is also a table out of the textbook. So a process looks at known inputs, predicted outputs. The method is a set of practices, a set of things that we do. You will develop in the method through phases of learning. In other words, you will start off as an experience, and yes, you might make some more mistakes than somebody that's experienced, but you will learn and you will go through phases of learning, and you will be able to make bigger decisions and larger jumps as you go along, because you will have more confidence and you've learned a lot. It's not just a step-by-step. It's iterative in its nature. In other words, it's something that goes around and around and around. You redo things at different times and in different manners. It's not a linear process. And yes, it requires creativity because it's not reliant on a predictive process that says this is going to happen, then that will happen, and when that has happened, then we will work towards this. So yes, you need to be a bit creative. The key focus is action. The key focus is doing things. Doesn't matter what you do, you just need to do something. Whilst entrepreneurship as a process is, let's plan it. Let's think about it. Let's see what can we do. Let's look at our options. Let's then think, if we take the 20 options we came up with, let's bring them down to 10 or maybe 5, and then let's try the best one of those. No. Take an option, make a choice. The method doesn't necessarily focus on an expected return, how much profit we're going to make. It says, what are we going to learn and how well are we going to learn this? It's collaborative rather than competitive. And I spoke about that earlier. So the method involves creating the future, not predicting it. So it's not about growing a venture using a linear step-by-step process. It's an ongoing method that creates opportunities to navigate the ever-changing world. So it's about, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. the idea is that you need to create the opportunities. You need to look at those opportunities. You need to seize the day. And so the problem is managerial thinking versus entrepreneurial thinking. Managers work in corporates. They like to plan. They like their steps. They like to be able to think how they can go ahead and do specific things. The startup environment is much more dangerous. You don't have that corporate parachute. You don't have the ability that if something goes wrong, there's a deep financial pockets to grab you or to support you and to save you. And therefore, the way in which an entrepreneur thinks is different to a manager. And before I put the next slide up, I want to make this clear that yes, there are times when you need to be a manager as an entrepreneur. I'm not saying it has no place. And I'm not even going to go to the place where we're going to talk about, well, is it a managerial role or leadership role? But yes, you do need to. But as a rule, your entrepreneurial role is different to your managerial role. And it differs in the following thing. Managers want to do big planning, strategic plans, corporate slogans, all these type of things. And then we take it down from this big strategic plan through our vision and mission. We take it down and each division sets up a corporate plan or a strategic plan. And then we take that strategic plan and we break it down in a 3 to 5 year time frame. The 3 to 5 year time frame is broken down to the 1 to 2 years plan. We then take that 1 to 2 year plan. We look at the actions that we can do. Meanwhile, the entrepreneur is busy doing things. They're taking these small actions. They're just busy doing it. Managers will wait until they get what they need to do it. Entrepreneurs look at what we have and let's go for it. Let's use what we have. No, we're not going to be able to open a chain of 10 restaurants. But this weekend, there's a flea market. We'll be able to open a table and sell some food there. Do I want the chain of 10 restaurants? Hell yes, I want it. I really want it. I can taste it. That's how much I want it. But I don't have the capacity to open 10 restaurants now. So I'm going to take the table at the flea market on Saturday and I'm going to sell my product. People are going to start to know the stuff I sell. They're going to start liking. They're going to ask, where can I buy it next time? And I will grow my business organically. Managers look at what is the expected return on investment. Entrepreneurs measure it and say, how much am I prepared to risk? And risk means, what am I prepared to lose? So if I walk away from the Saturday's flea market stable and I still have 25 pitas left in my box of pitas that I made, is that an acceptable loss? And the true entrepreneur is going to say, well, it's not going to be a loss. The family's going to eat a hell of a lot of pitas in the next week or two. But if we make no money, at least we've got our name out there. Managers think step by step, one linear step after the other. The entrepreneur thinks iteratively. I'm doing this, and next week I've got to do this again. So I've got to find a new flea market for next week. And the week after that, there's actually a big fair, and I'll put up a much bigger stall there. But the week after that, we're coming back to this flea market because it's on every first Friday of the month, and that's the first Friday, so we're coming back there. The manager is building and hoping to go bigger. Every step has to be bigger. If it's not bigger, we will wait until we get what we need. Because we want to optimize everything. We want to do it the best possible way the first time we do it. Entrepreneur says, let's experiment. Let's see what works. Let's see what people want. Let the market dictate. And we will take those small actions again. Managers avoid failure because when failure occurs for a manager, they have to report failure to their senior manager, who then has to report it to the senior manager, and who then has to report to the senior head honcho guy right at the top who might fire people. Entrepreneurs that fail embrace it, and they say, what from this failure can I learn? Where can I go with this failure? Managers compete. They want to see who we can put out of business today, who we can fight with, who are the people that we cannot tolerate in the business anymore. The entrepreneur is walking around at the flea market, looking at the other food stalls and seeing, geez, actually, this guy makes quite a nice pate. I wonder if I can use that pate in my pitas. So they're collaborating. They looking at how can we help each other. Because next week, you can take your pate and my pitas to another flea market, and I can go to a different one, and we could both make money by selling each other's products. Managers deals with the knowable. Entrepreneurs thrive on the unknowable. They take the unknowable and they experiment and they play and they see what they can find out with it. And then lastly, managers plan to act. Entrepreneurs act to learn. Entrepreneurs want to grow themselves, and they grow themselves by learning. I'm going to stop this here. I'm about 40 minutes in. And what I'm going to ask you at this point to do is, if you haven't looked at the video, read the article and looked at the video in the article, please go back to that and go do that now. You will find a second recording up within a day or so that will speak to the key components of the method, and how do those 8 components then make up the actual entrepreneurship methods. You've got my email on the screen. I will in the meantime investigate if you've just heard that I'm a horrible lecturer, or if there was a technical problem, and I sincerely hope it's the second one, and see how we can rectify that and make this session up to you. I thank you for your time. Keep well. Carl signing off. Cheers.